Hello everybody, today we're going to be learning about the Battle of Gettysburg. So this is how America won the Battle of Gettysburg while the Southern had so many people and soldiers fighting. So this is the story of the Battle of Gettysburg. Chapter 1. The Road to Gettysburg. In November 1860, American voters chose the 16th President of the United States. To most people, slavery was the most important issue of the day. Southern states did not allow slavery, while northern states did not. Americans had sharply different views on slavery. I'm for Abraham Lincoln. He'll stop slavery from spreading into the new states and territories. Stephen Douglas is my man. He says that the territories should decide for themselves if they want slavery. I'll vote for Lincoln, but I say we should get rid of the slavery once and for all. Lincoln defeated Douglas and 3 other men to win the presidency. Southern states feared that Lincoln would try to end slavery. To protect their right to slavery, 7 states soon seceded from the Union. They formed the Confederate States of America. Confederate leaders told Lincoln to remove U.S. troops from the South. Lincoln refused. On April 12, 1861, Confederate forces attacked U.S. Fort Sumter in South Carolina. We can't reach our gunpowder. Sir, the fire is spreading. And the fire is spreading. It's no use. We have to give the fort up to the rebels. They have beaten us. Soon after the attack, 4 more states joined the Confederacy. The Confederate States' victory at Fort Sumter was the first battle of the Civil War. Lincoln had a quick response. I'm ordering northern states to call volunteers. We need 75,000 new soldiers. And what about slavery? Nothing for now. My goal is to keep the Union whole. Most Southerners supported the war. Some of their troops have been training for months. Men, fighting is the only way to protect our independence. In the North, some people did not want war. Still, many men quickly volunteered to fight. I hear the rebels can really fight. Maybe so, but we have more money and men in the North. The North faced a difficult task. Union troops had to invade South and force the Confederacy to surrender. On July 1861, the 2 sides clashed near Manassas, Virginia. In the first battle of Bull Run. Come on, man, keep firing! Southern troops proved too strong for Union soldiers. Turn back, we're whipped! This war won't be over anytime soon. The fighting spread across the South. In May 1863, Confederate General Robert E. Lee met with Confederate President Jefferson Davis. You've won some brilliant victories, Lee, but it's time to move some of your troops into Mississippi. I have another plan, President Davis. It just might turn the war in our favor. We should invade the North in Pennsylvania. That will force Lincoln to move troops out of Mississippi. He won't want to lose battles on Union ground. It's a bold move, but I like your plan, Lee. Prepare to move your men northward. By June 26, the first Confederate troops reached Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I can't believe rebels have come to our little town. I hear all of Lee's army is heading this way. On June 28, a Confederate spy met with Lee. General Lee, the Union Army has crossed into Maryland. They're 20 miles south of here. The enemy aims to fight us soon. Have our troops meet near Gettysburg. Meanwhile, Union General George Medea was making plans to move the army of Pontomac into Pennsylvania. What are your orders, General? We must keep Lee from reaching Washington, D.C. Prepare to move north, men. The next morning, the first rebels marched into Gettysburg. No, never mind. On June 30, Union cavalry led by General John Buford reached Gettysburg. The rebels are here. The rebels are here, looking for shoes and supplies. There are tens of thousands of them west of the town. I'll send out scouts. Enemy troops have spotted Buford's scouts. Buford expected to fight the rebels to march into the town in the next day. We'll have no chance without reinforcements. General Buford, the men, and I will handle them. You will have to fight like the devil until support arrives. The next morning, the first rebels marched into Gettysburg. Heavy fighting broke out at McPherson's Ridge. Keep firing! Let them know we won't run. The Battle of Gettysburg had begun. Chapter 2. Gains and Losses. Buford's men held off rebels until more Union troops arrived. One group of Union soldiers surrounded Confederate forces by a near railroad cut. Surrender or we fire! Do as he says, boys. Put your guns down. But the Confederates quickly brought in more men. The Union forces were soon outnumbered. We must have captured a few thousand of these Yanks, and the rest of them ran like little rabbits to their other side of the town. The Union forces retreated to Culp's Hill and Cemetery Hill, less than a mile south of Gettysburg. Meanwhile, Lee and one of his generals, James Longstreet, debated what to do next. We're sure in control. We should keep fighting. General Longstreet, my men need rest. We've won a great victory today. Let the men rest. Gentlemen, we will attack in the morning. Union General George Meade did not reach Gettysburg until midnight. He quickly made plans for the day's fighting. We had almost 9,000 casualties today, sir, but at least 20,000 more troops should be here soon. We'll have 60,000 soldiers by morning. Good. If Lee doesn't strike first, we will launch an attack. This battle is far from over. The next morning, the two sides prepared for battle. Union General Daniel Sickles led troops on the left flank. If the rebels take that high ground, the artillery will easily hit us. Move men near Peach Orchard. But sir, General Meade's orders were to stay here. I'm ordering you to move troops. Just south of the high ground, Confederate troops overtook Union forces at a rocky spot called Devil's Den. We can't haul off these rebels any longer. Retreat! General Sickles had not sent anyone to take two nearby hills called Big and Little Round Top. Confederates tried to take the key position on Little Round Top, but the Union troops got there first. Men, whoever controls this hill will have a clear shot at the enemy below. We must hold the line. At Little Round Top, Colonel Joshua Chamberlain and his soldiers from Maine controlled part of the hill. Sir, the rebels are coming and we're almost out of ammo. We must hold this hill. Tell the men to get ready, to get their bayonets ready. Bayonet! Charge! Chamberlain's men drove off the rebels and saved Little Round Top for the north. Look at them run! General Meade soon learned that Sickles had moved his men into the Peach Orchard. The rebels are attacking him in large numbers. What should we do, General? That Sickles is a fool. Why couldn't he do as he was told? We have no choice. Send more men and stop that enemy advance. The reinforcements, however, did not help Union soldiers. By early evening, the Confederates held a high ground near Peach Orchard and were nearly in a nearby area called the Wheat Field. With the beating we have given them today, we are in good shape to finish them off tomorrow. That's right. We showed the Yanks today who's got a better army. 2 miles east of Wheatfield, Confederate troops soon launched attacks on Union forces at Culp's and Cemetery Hills. Seize those guns, men! While the North kept control of Culp's Hill, the Union troops faced a tougher battle at Cemetery Hill. Confederate troops reached the top of the hill, but they were not sure what they could control. But they were not sure they could control the position. Are there any reinforcements nearby, sir? I think I see them now. The reinforcements, however, were from the other side. Fresh Union troops soon launched a counterattack. Send them back where they came from, men. This hill is ours again. After sunset, the two sides fired their last shots of the day. The battlefield was quiet, except for moans of the dying and wounded men. In the day's fighting, the two sides had a total of 16,500 casualties. Later that night, the two commanders met with their aides. Neither men could be sure of what would happen the next day. The casualties were heavy, General Medee. But we held on to Little Round Top. We still have most of our artillery. We're in a good position, but we must keep Lee from moving farther north. Meanwhile, at Lee's headquarters, we had gained some ground, but we still didn't do as well as we hoped, sir. The whole army of Pontomac is out there. They may be too strong for us. The rest of our troops have arrived. We will attack in the morning. We must win at Gettysburg. Chapter 3. A bloody victory. The next day's fighting began before sunrise. Union artillery fired on the Southern forces, once again trying to take Culp's Hill. Once again, the Confederates failed. Later that morning, Lee met with Longstreet and explained his plan for the main attack. The enemy is there at Cemetery Hill. We will attack them with 15,000 men. It is my opinion that no 15,000 men ever raid for battle can take that precision. Those are my orders, General Longstreet. Prepare your men. General George Pickett commanded 6,000 Confederate troops from the Virginia. They were ordered to take part in the largest charge of the battle. It is up to us, boys. We're the freshest troops that General Lee has got. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the main battle began. About 160 pieces of Confederate artillery began firing at Union cannons defending Cemetery Hill. How are we doing? Who can tell? There's so much smoke from our guns. I can't see. The Union and the rebel guns boomed for almost 2 hours. General, we're almost out of ammo for the cannons. Should I lead the charge now? Longstreet feared the worst for Pickett and his men. He did not respond as he looked away. Then, General, I shall lead my division on. Pickett's men and the other Confederate troops charged across the field, almost 1 mile long. Meanwhile, the Union troops waited for them at Cemetery Hill. The attack was later known as Pickett's Charge. Up, men, and to your posts. Don't forget that today you are from old Virginia. Stay in line, men. Keep moving forward. The Confederates had hoped to destroy most of the Union artillery before the charge. They had failed, and now gunfire from nearby hills rained down on rebel troops. Get ready, boys. Here they come. The charging rebels finally reached their Union line. By now, they were outnumbered. They're cutting us down like weeds. Confederate General Lewis Armistead led his soldiers to a spot called the Angle, where two stone walls met. Come on, boys, give them the cold steel. Who will follow me? A few hundred men followed Armstead, but they were no match for Union guns. Confederate troops everywhere pulling back or throwing down their guns to surrender. General Lee rode out to the troops, urging them to keep firing. Pickett, prepare your division for a counterattack. General Lee, I have no division now. As the day's fighting ended, Lee knew that the battle had been lost. This has been a sad day for us, Colonel. A sad day. Late that afternoon, Madi came to the front lines. The enemy has been driven off, sir. Thank God. Chapter 4. After the battle. The next morning, Lee began to pull his troops out of Gettysburg. A train wagon of 17 miles long headed west away from the battlefield. Know what today is? The 4th of July. After the past 3 days, there's not much to celebrate. Madi thought Lee might be moving his troops to attack again. He did not go after the Confederates until July 5th. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., President Lincoln learned about Lee's retreat. Madi did not act fast enough. Lee and his men are going to make it back to Virginia. We had them with our gasps, and nothing I could say or do could make any. We had them within our grasps, and nothing I could say or do could make the army move. Back in Gettysburg, residents left with horrors of the battle. Many soldiers from both sides have been buried in shallow graves. Some had not been buried at all. A local lawyer named Davis Will had a plan. Mr. Wills, we have to clean up this battlefield. Our men deserve a proper burial. We need to do more than that. We've got to make a new cemetery to honor the Union men who died here. On November 19th, 1863, President Lincoln spoke at the official opening of Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg. 47 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. In his Gettysburg address, Lincoln said that the Civil War was being fought to give all Americans freedom and equality. This speech soon became one of the most famous speeches ever made in the United States. After Gettysburg, the South never had the strength for another large attack on northern soil. On April 9th, 1865, Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant near Potomac, Virginia. General Grant, this long and bloody war is finally over. More about the Battle of Gettysburg. The North had about 22,000 casualties at the Gettysburg, out of the slightly more than 93,000 troops. The South suffered about the same amount of casualties out of the 70,000 troops. The combined number of casualties was the highest for any one battle of the Civil War. About another 11,000 casualties occurred in the fighting just before and after the main battle. Abraham Lincoln wrote out 5 copies of Gettysburg Address. 2 are at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. One is at the White House, and another one is at Abraham Lincoln, and another one is at Abraham Lincoln's Presidential Library in Springfield, Illinois. The last is at Cornell University in New York. About 3,500 Union soldiers are buried at Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg. In 1895, the U.S. government created Gettysburg National Military Park. The The park includes the cemetery and the battlefield around it. Today, the park covers nearly 6,000 acres and 26 miles of road. At least 1.8 million people visit the park each year. The Gettysburg Address. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met here on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of it as a final resting place for those who gave their lives that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate. We cannot consecrate. We cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have concentrated far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note. The world will little forget what they did here. Will little note nor long remember what we say here, but can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they have thus far so nobly carried on. It is rather for us to be dedicated, dead to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotions to that cause, for which they highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that this government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And that is the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln. So I hope you guys liked the book, and thank you much for listening to this video, and I hope I see you next time I read this book. Bye.